Saturday, August 15th, 2020, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So some interesting headlines yesterday. Interesting story about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, his company, about how they actually bought Barrick Gold stock in the second quarter. And many of you know that Warren Buffett is not a friend of gold. And I can understand why he's not a friend of gold, because his company is involved in investments, and gold really is not an investment per se. I've said it many times, gold is money. So he's right in a way. So why would he invest in a gold mining company? Well, I think there's a few things involved here, and I'll go through that after I look at the story. So you're gonna have to wait till we go through it so I can give you my opinion of why they've decided to do this. I think it's quite significant though. So before I go through the stories, I'll go through a quote, a Warren Buffett quote, quite a famous quote about gold. And this is what he said: "Gold gets dug out of the ground in Africa or someplace. Then we melt it down, dig another hole, bury it again, and pay people to stand around guarding it. It has no utility. Anyone watching from Mars would be scratching their head." And this is what he said as well. I think it was back in 2011. He was talking about gold and productive assets. And this is what he said: "Productive land grows wealth. A century from now, the 400 million acres of farmland will have produced staggering amounts of corn, wheat, cotton, and other crops, and will continue to produce that valuable bounty, whatever the currency may be. ExxonMobil will probably have delivered trillions of dollars in dividends to its owners and will also hold assets worth many more trillions. The 170,000 tons of gold will be unchanged in size and still incapable of producing anything. You can fondle the cube, but it will not respond." So Barron's is reporting here. So they said Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway sells JP Morgan. They didn't sell the whole position. They sold all their position in Occidental Petroleum, and they bought Barrick Gold and Kroger. And they got rid of all their Goldman Sachs stock as well in the second quarter. So you can see here they bought Barrick Gold. They didn't have it in the first quarter, so they bought almost 21 million shares worth $500 million or $563 million, as you can see here. So why do I think Warren Buffett is gone back on his word, so to speak? Well, I think it's more a matter of him diversifying his cash position. I think Berkshire Hathaway has a lot of cash, and yes, gold has no utility, like he said in his comment, and I agree with him, except for like jewelry and some industrial use, very little industrial use. But as a currency, as money, it's normal that it has no utility. It's like a dollar, a paper dollar bill or Federal Reserve note. It doesn't have any utility because it's money. And I think he realizes that. I think he knows that. And why do I think Warren Buffett knows that ultimately gold is the best money there is? It's been money for thousands of years. Well, because of his father, Howard Buffett. Howard Buffett was a congressman from Nebraska. So what I think Warren Buffett is realized is that the dollar is under threat, especially after what's happened this year with the health crisis, with the fact that the Federal Reserve and all other central banks around the world, Uncle Sam, they're going crazy and creating fiat dollars out of thin air. The Fed's balance sheet is going through the roof and is going to probably keep going through the roof. You have to understand that Warren Buffett is an insider. He made billions from his position in Goldman Sachs during the collapse of '08. If he hadn't put money into Goldman Sachs, I think the financial sector would have been in trouble. Yes, he got a nod from the U.S. Treasury, but he also helped them to give him credibility, saying, yeah, I'm going to buy some Goldman Sachs stock. But now he's got out of that. So I think that's what it is. He's realized that he needs to diversify from the paper dollar, from the Federal Reserve note. And that's why he's also getting out of Goldman Sachs and also JP Morgan. It will be very interesting, of course, to see in the next quarter when they announce or file with the SEC again, if they've added on to Barrick Gold stock, if they exited more of their positions in JP Morgan. And I don't think it's surprising because even though Warren Buffett denigrates gold, and I don't really think he denigrates it, he's just talking about investments, and gold is not an investment. And but if you go back to his father knew what gold was, and I don't think Warren Buffett thinks exactly like his father. I don't think he has the same philosophical or moral compass as his dad. But back in 1948, his dad made a speech about gold, and the speech is entitled "Human Freedom Rests on Gold Redeemable Money." He was a congressman from Nebraska, of course, back then. I'm not going to go through the whole speech. I will put a link to it below in the description, and you can go through it. And yeah, I think Warren Buffett, he doesn't let people know as much as he knows, of course. And I think probably that's why one of the reasons why he's been successful, right? But I'll go through the final remarks of Howard Buffett's speech here. He says, I can find no evidence to support a hope that our fiat paper money venture will fare better ultimately than such experiments in other lands. He's talking about all the hyperinflations elsewhere, and that paper money or fiat paper money usually goes to zero, or always goes to zero. Because of our economic strength, the paper money disease here may take many years to run its course, but we can be approaching the critical stage. When that day arrives, our political rulers will probably find that foreign war and ruthless regimentation is the cunning alternative to domestic strife. That's very interesting. Ruthless regimentation. Isn't that what we're having right now with this crisis? That was the way out of the paper money economy of Hitler and others. In these remarks, I have only touched on high points of this problem. I hope that I have given you enough information to challenge you to make a serious study of it. I warn you that politicians of both parties will oppose the restoration of gold, although they may outwardly seemingly favor it. Also, those elements here and abroad who are getting rich from the continued American inflation will oppose a return to sound money. Well, that's his son in the last 30, 40 years, right? That's Warren Buffett. You must be prepared to meet their opposition intelligently and vigorously. They have had 15 years of unbroken victory. Well, 15 years, what's that? Well, because in 1933, America went off the domestic gold standard, and he's speaking in 1948. But unless you're willing to surrender your children and your country to galloping inflation, war, and slavery, then this cause demands your support. For if human liberty is to survive in America, we must win the battle to restore honest money. There is no more important challenge facing us than this issue. I agree with him 100%, and it's still the case today. The restoration of your freedom to secure gold in exchange for the fruits of your labors. So do I think Warren Buffett has changed his mind about gold and he's actually a pseudo or a crypto gold bug or sound money advocate like his father? No, I think he's just trying to protect his wealth. And yes, he learned from his father. His father predicted that this would happen, that the currency would collapse eventually because it's a fiat currency, that we'd have slavery, that we'd have ruthless regimentation. Isn't that what we're having now with the current crisis? So yeah, it's a significant headline about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway buying Barrick Gold Corporation. And I think it's also a bad sign for the dollar. And those people who are still holding paper money, not only in the US, but everywhere around the world, I would take this as a serious warning of more inflation to come. In a way, it was kind of surprising that Warren Buffett and his company bought into the gold sector. But as you've seen from his father's views, Warren Buffett probably knows very well what's going on with the dollar, more than he lets know. And I think when they come out with their next filing for the SEC, that position in Barrick Gold will probably have increased. He probably will have added on other positions in the gold mining sector. Could he also have added on GLD, the gold ETF? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great weekend. Take care. Bye.